Thank you. Hello, everyone. Would like to start my contribution for this beautiful webinar, thanking for this opportunity, especially Angela and Alfonsina for the invite. It's a privilege to me to be here with you all sharing my research. My name is Thaisa. I'm from Brazil. I'm a master's student in archaeology at Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, and I have a degree in dance theory from the same university. I'm also a professional dancer. This introduction is necessary because my research started when I was in my graduation. I was very interested in exploring the idea of reconstruction of choreographies from a dance perspective. At that time, the field of archaeology started to call my attention due to its relationship with materiality. In dance field, the debate about reconstruction of dance works is usually located in relation to history, but that was not enough for me. I wanted the materiality. And now I'm here trying to understand and develop a relationship between both fields. In my master's, the question that I asked myself and that I brought to you today was, when what's left for us is just the body of the archaeologist, how can archaeology be done? I believe that the body has always been part of the interest of archaeology, but in the otherness perspective. Because of the COVID situation, this question becomes more urgent. For almost 2 years, we were confined at home and the work needed to be done. To do so, I bring to archaeology the idea developed for those two dance researchers, Valerie Preston-Dunlop and Leslie Ann Sawyers, called Archaeo-choreology, inspired in the work of Mike Pearson and Michael Shanks. They propose that archaeo-choreology uses archaeological techniques to find lost dances. So to inspire this work, I'm proposing a transdisciplinary relationship with archaeology and dance as a field. I believe that dance is looked for by archaeologists as an object, usually in a ritual perspective, not as a field. I'm interested in bringing theories of movement and body developed in the dance field to create a dialogue with archaeology. Thus, my research is based in a transdisciplinary relationship between dance, archaeology, and South Asian studies fields. I will talk about that one further ahead. So, my first great challenge was to find in archaeology some sub-area that I would make my question possible. As I said, we have a lot of body perspective in archaeology, archaeology of sense, archaeology of the body, and etc. But was in the experimental archaeology that I found what I was looking for, the experimenter. Thus, I have the exarch as a pillar to my to think about experimental archaeology. Another pillar to this research is the philosophical perspective of Merleau-Ponty's phenomenology and the cognitive inaction from Maturana and Varela. From the dance theory, I have Rudolf von Laban and Elenita Saer's fundamentals of dance theories as a pillar. The Rudolf Laban is a choreology, the idea of field of dance as a science. So I want to share with you a little bit about the Elenita Saer's fundamentals of dance. So Saer's Fundamentals of Dance Theory gives us 5 parameters to investigate the body movement. Those parameters are movement, space, shape, time, and dynamics. Those parameters, they are like lens for detailed motion analysis. Each parameter has diversifying agents of movement that allows us to scrutinize the body movement. In a dance perspective, this theory is intended to assist the creation process. What I'm proposing is that we use this theory to analyze the body and the movement of the experimenter during the experimental archaeology process. And we add the body as a variable to the experiment. Since 70s, with Reynolds and Coles, the body of the experimenter has been debated in experimental archaeology. Reynolds advocates the need to dismiss the human element, and I don't agree with that. So, looking at the parameters of dance, we can highlight that space, time, and shape are very close to archaeology. And since the historical culturalism, we are talking about those points. So now we move on to the South Asian studies that I mentioned early in the application of this thought. In my research, I'm studying the Nataraja Temple in Chidambaram, Tamil Nadu. He's located 245 kilometers from Chennai, the capital of the state. And its oldest construction dates back to the 10th century CE. This temple complex has 4 structures. Let me go back, this one. This temple has 4 structures around the terrain, marking the cardinal points called gopura, these structures over here. A gopura is a gateway, and its size can reach monumental proportion. They are usually built with a stone base and brick structures with a pilaster providing support. Usually, its shape is pyramidal, and its top has a vault. The other walls are covered with sculptures and can be colored or not. In Chidambara, this one is from Chidambara, the gopuras has a huge structure, and in the inside walls, in this part over here, we have a representation of 108 karanas. These representations over here. Karanas are complex dance movements, which are described in the Natya Shastra, a codex of Indian performing arts dated between the 2nd century BCE and the 2nd century CE. I'm defending in my research that the Natya Shastra is compiling a body, movement, and aesthetic school of thought, which influenced and influences Indian art today. In this image, you can see the name of each body part that Bharata Muni, the author, uses to investigate the movement. His theory is very similar in some perspective to Saeb's and Laban's explorations. Those dance movements were lost, the karanas, and we don't know exactly how they were. In the 90s, the Indian researcher, Dr. Padma Subramanian, developed a reconstruction of those dance movements combining the Natya Shastra and the sculptures in the South Asian temples, including Chidambaram, to her interpretation. In 2020, I started to learn her interpretation with Dr. Sujata Mohan, a disciple of Dr. Padma Subramanian, to develop my analysis. This experience gave me the opportunity to study the sculptures through my body, enabling me to develop a body construction close to the one that inspired the materiality. I used in my research Saerp's Fundamentals Dance of Theory to analyze all the 108 katanas and the experience with Dr. Sujata Mohan to enrich and make the analysis of materiality more complex. As a result, I'm defending my thesis, my master thesis in 7th December, just a few days ahead, where I share in more detail the debate presented here, as well as the conclusions of the experiments. So, in conclusion, I want to highlight that the transdisciplinary perspective allows us to think in different cultural capital, as Bourdieu would say. So the production and the product and questions that we develop through an archaeology dance perspective may be different if you were working on a dance archaeology perspective. We need to be very careful and alert to not confuse the type of academic production that we are looking for. I believe that the artistic perspective has more space to performative and fruition. Through an archaeological production, we need to be more accurate in terms of scientific rigor. Doesn't mean that dance will not do with rigor the research, but we have different production, we have different questions. When we are talking about dance, looking to archaeology, we can talk about reconstructions and different perspective of reconstruction, more in a creative perspective, as reenactment, for example, as citation, for example. The documentation in dance is very important to think about. We used to say that dance is the devir, is the always doing and undoing in the time. So what is the documentation in dance? What is materiality in dance? What is archive in archaeology? Looking dance and archaeology together. And in archaeological perspective, archaeology and dance, we can talk about tools to think archaeology as body, new perspective of experimentation, new parameters to analyze the body in archaeology, not just in the experimental archaeology, but we can use these parameters to use to bioarchaeology, for example. We have in dance field, we have a lot of notation. I am studying the Laban's notation. So in the Laban's notation, we are looking to all the body parts and the type of movement we do in the articulation. So this can be helpful to others things in archaeology. So to finish my contribution, I call Deleuze. The question is not so much to convince, but to be clear. To be clear is to impose the data, not only of a situation, but of a problem. Make things visible that otherwise would not have been visible. For me, this is the core of the transdisciplinary perspective. Make things visible that otherwise wouldn't have been visible. So I share my contacts. Thank you so much for this opportunity.